A lucky find. It had rained all week. By Saturday, the rain still hadn't stopped. Floppy looked miserable. He hadn't had a good walk for ages. Poor old Floppy, said Kipper. Later that day, it stopped raining, so Kipper opened the back door and looked out. He could see a patch of blue sky. Good boy, Floppy, said Kipper. It has stopped raining at last. Floppy picked up his lid in his mouth and gave a little whimper. I'll see who will take you for a walk, said Kipper. Biff and Jeff were playing a game. It was hard to tell who would win. Shall we take Floppy for a walk? Asked Kipper. Not just now, said Chip. Biff and I are locked in combat. Mom and Dad were putting a bookcase together. Can we take Floppy for a walk? Pleaded Kipper. He hasn't had one for ages. We can't, said Mom. Not at the moment. Let him into the garden for now. Just then, Kipper's friend Lee came to the door. Do you want to come to my house and play? Asked Lee. Grandpa Chin has made some fortune cookies. Sorry, Fluffy, said Kipper. No walk for you at the moment. The boys loved Grandpa's fortune cookies. Kipper broke one open and pulled out the tiny slip of paper inside it. It said, kind deeds are like seeds. Plant them often. I'd like to take Floppy out for a walk, said Kipper. That would be a kind deed. Well, Button needs a walk too, said Lee. Can we take both dogs out, Grandpa? That will be a kind deed. Grandpa said it was a good idea. The dogs can have a good run, he said. They went along a path that led to Dewdrop Down. The boys loved going there, and so did the dogs. It had humps and bumps, and there were bushes to hide behind. It was a great place to play chase. Lee and Kipper ran up a steep hump. As they reached the top, the earth suddenly slid away. The boys tumbled to the bottom. Grandpa Chin ran up to the boys. He helped them both up. Are you all right? Asked Grandpa. The ground gave way, said Lee. We're just a bit muddy, that's all. Kipper looked at the place where the ground had slipped away. A black object was sticking out of the earth. What is that, Grandpa Chin? He asked. Oh, goodness, exclaimed Grandpa Chin. It might be dangerous. It looks like a very old explosive. It was probably dropped in World War II. We'd better get well back, said Lee. Grandpa Chin phoned the police. Soon, a police car raced up. Grandpa Chin took the police officers to the place where the ground had slipped away. It could be an explosive, said an officer. This is a job for the experts, said another officer. Meanwhile, we must not take any chances. We'll have to tape off a large area. The other police officer unrolled a large reel of blue tape. It wasn't long before a disposer unit came. One of the experts went to look. Lee and Kipper were excited. Wow, said Lee. Maybe we'll see them exploded. The disposal expert came to talk to the boys. He was grinning. It isn't a job for us after all, he said. I think it's some kind of pot, but it's very old. It's an artifact and it needs a history expert. The men went over the ground with metal detectors. There may be another artifacts under the ground, one of them said. This could be an ancient village or burial ground. Later, a Roman woman called Anne came and carefully dug the pot out of the ground. She scraped some earth from the neck. Then she peered inside. This is so exciting, she said. I'm hoping there is some interesting inside it. Gently Anne tilted the pot up onto a cloth. About 30 gold coins slid out. Everyone gasped. These coins are hundreds of years old, she said excitedly. They show a Saxon king called Edbald. He was king in about 620. Kipper and Lee looked at one of the coins through a magnifying glass. I've never seen anything so old, said Lee. King Edbald had a big nose, laughed Kipper, and a big chin. Then a television crew came. We'd like to cover the story of the news this evening, a man said. He looked at Lee and Kipper. Now just tell us how you found the pot with all the gold coins on it. Next, the crew spoke to Anne. The boys and their grandfather did the right thing, she said. There may be more things to find. This could be the site of Saxon village here on Dewdrop Down. It is very exciting. Back at home, Chip rushed to Kipper. Guess what? He said. I am the winner. I beat Biff, but only just. Well, you should have come on a walk with us, said Kipper. It was fantastic. We finished the bookcase, said Mom. Dad, did you have a nice walk? Asked Mom. Kipper was bursting to tell everyone his news, but he didn't. It was really interesting, he said. Then he turned on the television. Everyone gasped when the news item came on. The reporter said that 2 boys had found a Saxon artifact. Lee told the reporter how they had found it when the ground slipped away. I wish we'd gone on the rock now, said Biff. It would have been better than playing a silly old computer game. Plant good deeds like seeds, said Kipper. You'll be amazed what they grow into. What are you talking about? Asked Biff. There had been a Saxon village on Dewdrop Down. The children went to see it. Anne was there to show them around. It's an excavation, said Anne. It means we find where the village was by digging. It doesn't look much like a village, said Chip. It's just a lot of pits and trenches. Saxon houses were made of wood, said Anne, so there is nothing left on them, but we can tell where they stood. This is an exciting find, said Anne. It's a gold band. It's a bit crumpled, but it has some Latin writing on it. It looks like one of Grandpa's fortune cookies, laughed Lee. It was thanks to the fortune cookies we took the dogs for a walk, Lee went on. Yes, said Kipper, the fortune cookie was right. Kind deeds are like seeds. Plant them often. We planted a good deed and it grew into finding a Saxon village. I've never made fortune cookies before, Grandpa laughed. We didn't have them in Hong Kong when I grew up. They were invented in the USA. Well, keep making them, laughed Lee. Your first ones were very lucky.